Spider-Man is one of the greatest heroes ever developed. The "with great power comes great responsibility" tagline is a message that is appropriate for any age. In fact, I think we should start practice taking responsibility right now. With the power we have to wear our masks, we can take responsibility for the safety of others. Because it's really cool to wear masks out in public, just like Miles. Look at him wearing his mask in public. Isn't that responsible? But hey, protecting others isn't the only way to be great, powerful, and responsible. You can also be powerful and responsible for your protection with the help of our sponsor, Surfshark VPN. That's right, we got another sponsor, and I think you guys will really appreciate this one. VPN is short for Virtual Private Network, and is a tool for keeping your data and your devices safe while surfing the web. In case you didn't know, VPNs are designed to encrypt your data while you send it across the internet. If Doc Ock had used Surfshark VPN to encrypt her data, it would be a much different movie. Speaking of which, did you know that Spiderverse is available on Netflix right now? But as Netflix often does, it's not available in every country. Aw man, if only there was a service available for you to trick Netflix into thinking you're from America. Oh wait, there is! Surfshark VPN lets you pick the country you access the internet from, which means if you want to watch something on American Netflix, all you gotta do is pick an American server and bam, there you go. And what's more is that I actually have a really good deal for you that I wish I had when I signed up for my VPN for the first time. By the way, I use VPNs all the time, even before I had this sponsorship. If you sign up right now using my link below or by typing surfshark.deals/TheLoadingCrew, you get 85% off and 3 extra months for free. Seriously, why wasn't this deal available when I was VPN shopping? This is a steal! Plus, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's absolutely no risk for you for checking it out, watching some things that the copyright gods don't want you to watch, and then seeing what you think. Check out Surfshark VPN today. Howdy friendos, my name is Stuart, and welcome to the part of the channel where we take a look at pop culture characters and determine what alignment they are in Dungeons & Dragons based on the parameters that we established in our Shrek video. Today we are going to be looking at the 3 main characters from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse: Peter B. Parker, Gwen Stacy, and of course, Miles Morales. Now, I suspect some of you in the comments are going to be asking, hey, wait a minute, the title and thumbnail said every Spider-Man. You lying liar that lies. Are you false advertisings? No, I'm not. I have 3 reasons why I'm doing the video this way. First, and most basic, is that the other Spider people in this movie don't really have arcs like the first 3 that I mentioned. Peter Parker was always the idealized perfect Spider-Man. Penni Parker didn't really change, and Peter Parker's whole point of the movie can pretty much be boiled down to, oh look, he's a cartoon character, isn't that funny? You can make the argument that Spider-Noir went through a relatively sharp arc, considering at the beginning of the part where he's introduced, he's a hard-boiled Nazi puncher loner, and at the end he cares about the value of love and friendship, but like, so what? He didn't really make any drastic actions, despite him normally apparently having to wrestle with the moral ambiguity of his violent actions. I'll label the Spider people really fast at the end of the video, but for now I want to cover the most important characters of the movie first, and we'll get the rest along with my personal feelings about this movie in the opinion section near the end of the video. The first Spider-Man I want to cover is Peter Parker from the beginning of the movie. This Peter is meant to be the perfect, idealized Spider-Man. He has been saving people, hunting things, and been an all-around good guy for 10 years and rarely wavering or faltering. He is disliked by the police as a vigilante, but remember, going against the law isn't a sign of a chaotic character. The morals of a chaotic character are based on individualism and against the grain without a moral code. Peter Parker actually has an incredibly strong moral code, and he strives to do as much good as he can, but he also doesn't make too many ethical decisions other than be good guy. I'm going to say that this idealized Spider-Man is neutral good and will serve as the base for all the other Spider people. Next, Peter B. Parker is the Spider-Man from an alternate universe. Supposedly our universe, judging by the Coca-Cola logo we see in the flashback sequence. Now, getting some quick things out of the way. This is not the Spider-Man from the Sam Raimi films. Despite the jokes that were cracked by Blonde Peter at the beginning of the movie, yeah, I know this is getting confusing when you put them into words like this, but these Peter Parkers are not the same character. The writers from the film originally said they wanted to have Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland cameo, implying that they were from separate universes. They eventually decided against this since it would create confusion. And if you need an in-universe explanation, look at this.
Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us.
See that? That's the Lord's Prayer, a New Testament prayer to Jesus. She's also holding a cross. The Peter from Spiderverse just crushed a glass in his wedding, a very Jewish tradition. Now I know that doesn't necessarily prove anything 100%, nor does it prove anything when you see Peter eating a pork hot dog in Spider-Man 2, but yeah, let's just accept this is a different guy, just for the sake of the argument. Anyway, the only reason I really bring this up is because on this channel, we like to take a look at the entire fictional history of characters, and I wanted to disprove the notion that we had anything else to go on. In fact, let's just do this with every single Spider-Person. We're going to go off of the implied histories that we see in the movie, and we're going to ignore comics for now. Anyway, this Peter spent the last 22 years being Spider-Man, and those last few years have not been too kind to him. While he did all the typical things that a Spider-Man can, he also had some rocky personal issues along the way. He made some terrible financial decisions, had to bury Aunt May, and he divorced Mary Jane over the decision to have kids. Over those years, this Peter became much more jaded than the others, so much that he decided that he saved the city too much, which is an interesting notion for a Spider-Person to take. The first thing we see him do when confronted by Miles was to immediately look for ways to get back home. But he is then also guilted into helping him. These actions and the base that we have with the ideal Parker makes me believe that he is still largely neutral and good, but he is jaded and he has a bit of a chip on his shoulder. I say we're going to start this Peter at neutral, but lean him towards chaotic good just a bit to reflect his more self-serving nature. Next is Gwen Stacy. This one's a little harder to judge, not because of her actions, but mostly because her history is slightly less familiar than the one we're used to dealing with. In her backstory, she seemingly killed her best friend Peter, in what seemed like an accident to deal with her Dimensions Lizard event. This clearly had a profound effect on her because she has elected to be a loner after this point. She also seems to be willing to be a bit more ruthless than both Peter and Miles, leading me to believe that she's chaotic good. Last but not least, Miles Morales. Miles is a young boy living in New York who recently got invited to a full ride to a fancy prep school. He clearly is uncomfortable there, feeling out of place from the inner city school that he came from. He is constantly sneaking out either to goof off, draw, or hang out with his uncle. He's definitely not a bad kid though. He's just that, a kid. So for that, we're going to give Miles a very basic chaotic neutral to start with. Now, since all three go through very strong character arcs, we can safely assume that these three will change by the end of the movie. Don't forget, we will also be tackling the other three spiders at the end of the video, and I'll be sharing just a few teeny tiny spicy takes I have on the movie. And with that, let's go.
How many more spider people are there?
Save it for Comic-Con.
What's Comic-Con?
Miles walks around the school and vandalizes the town with his stickers. What a criminal. Chaotic neutral.
Maybe I'm not late. Maybe you guys are early.
Gwen laughs at Miles' bad joke in order to alleviate his embarrassment. She even compliments him afterwards. Best Girl award goes to neutral good.
A 0? What? A few more of those, you'd probably have to kick me out of here, huh?
Miles actively tries to flunk out of his fancy prep school in order to go back to his old environment. Chaotic neutral. Miles sneaks out of school in order to hang with his uncle. Chaotic neutral. They then sneak into some very off-limits places in order to throw up some graffiti. Chaotic neutral.
It's just puberty.
I don't think you know what puberty is.
Miles overreacts to his new powers and just causes a ruckus. Chaotic neutral. Gwen even gets pulled into the equation, although she does try to help him before KOing him for nearly pulling her hair out. Chaotic good. Miles heads back to the scene where he got bit by the spider. He runs into a fight between Spider-Man and Green Goblin and tries to get out before getting stuck. Neutral.
What was that?
And I can't really blame Miles here. He doesn't know how to fight, but in his panic he runs away from the Prowler.
They're counting on me.
After Peter's funeral, Miles tries his best to teach himself how to be Spider-Man in order to save the city. Despite the fact that he accidentally smashed the goober, he is giving it the good old college try. Lawful good. Miles runs from the cops. Hilarious and chaotic scene, but also neutral as well. Chaotic neutral.
You're like me.
I got some questions.
Miles interrogates Peter B, trying to fulfill his promise to his Peter Parker to save everyone. He uses his words and negotiates Peter B into helping him. Lawful good.
Trust me, kid, this will all make you a better Spider-Man.
Peter B tries to bail on the mission and self-serves. Chaotic neutral. He eventually agrees to help, not out of altruism, but out of guilt. Chaotic good.
I love this burger, so delicious.
That lady with the bike is the head scientist. I saw her in this documentary at school.
Cool. Step 3. I re-examine my personal biases.
So I'm going to count this twice. Peter B not only helps Miles save the city, but he also re-examines his personal biases. Character growth. Also, feminism without being preachy. Lawful good.
Go back outside.
No, I can't sit there and just let Spider-Man die without doing anything about it. I'm not doing that again.
Aw, Miles is a good boy. Neutral good.
Turn on the charm.
Peter B completely underestimates Liv and tries to deceive and distract her, leading to a Nat 20 reveal for Doc Ock. Chaotic good.
I got this, run!
Self-sacrifice. Neutral good.
I got it!
Miles bails on the hacking plan and just takes her PC. Chaotic good.
Whip and release it. Whip, release.
Peter and Miles work together to get the computer away from Doc Ock. Gwen absolutely flexes on Peter B and Miles, saving them, but still incapacitates Peter, Miles, and Liv, reflecting her solo playstyle. Chaotic good.
He broke this?
Yeah.
Miles flirts with Gwen and says that it was Peter B that broke the goober. Like a total bro, Peter B just lets that happen. Chaotic good.
I was there when it all happened. I am so sorry.
Miles apologizes personally to Aunt May for what happened to Peter, even though he wasn't directly responsible. Neutral good.
One of us has to stay behind and destroy it.
I'll do it.
All of the Spider-Men offer to self-sacrifice to destroy the Collider at once. Lawful good.
Can you swing and flip with the grace of a trained dancer?
Gwen joins the other spiders in trying to test Miles to see if he can handle sending them back home. They're only doing this to make sure he won't get killed or crumble under pressure. You know, that typical tough love situation. Chaotic good.
Guy's cool.
Noticing that he was getting overwhelmed, Peter B tells everyone to back off. Neutral good.
Miles?
Miles, letting the pressure get the better of him, bails on the other spiders and goes to his uncles for advice. Chaotic neutral.
You know me, sir. I don't ever quit.
While at his apartment, he discovers his uncle was the Prowler. He panics, runs away, and leads them back to the spiders. Chaotic neutral.
You're Scorpion, but we're the Spider gang.
Would you mind taking this outside?
Once the enemy discovers them, they try to peacefully talk their way out of it, for the most part, and then get into a fight with all the bad guys in non-lethal ways. Lawful good. Miles reveals to his uncle who he is, refusing to fight him. Neutral.
We've all been there. You know, for me, it was my Uncle Ben.
I love this scene too. It's like the curse of the Spider-Man. Just a real good, consistent theme there. They all come back and empathize with him. Neutral good.
Venom, strike me right now. Or turn invisible on command so you can get past me.
Another great scene. The spiders refuse to let Miles go in unprepared and they trap him in place, taking the goober and effectively save his life against his consent. Chaotic good.
What's up, danger?
After getting the inspirational words from his dad and the rest of the spiders, Miles finds the spark within himself to master his abilities and go help the rest of the spiders save the city. Nat 20 scene, lawful good.
Can't be that easy.
The spiders sneak into the building to stop the Collider using deception. Half comedy, but still chaotic good.
I just wondered if we could have some more bread at table 12?
Peter gets distracted though and talks to MJ, potentially endangering the mission. Chaotic neutral.
You alright, man?
Yo, yeah, totally.
Okay, good, because we are not getting any bread.
Good on Gwen though for being such a bro about it. Best girl, bro, Gwen. Best bro, neutral good.
I like your suit.
Thanks. I made it myself.
That was adorable, kid! Now hold on tight!
Lawful good for everyone. They're all supporting each other and saving the city and fighting bad guys. Peter B gets an extra one by offering to sacrifice himself, though. Lawful good.
I'll hold him off. You shut this down.
Peter, that wasn't the deal.
He, in fact, does this several times, showing just how much of a positive effect Miles had on him. Lawful good.
Gotta go home, man.
Not bad, movie.
Hey.
Miles stops Kingpin, saves the city, and makes up with his dad. All in a day's work. Neutral good. Man, this is a fun movie. The characters are all really, really good, and I pretty much liked all of it. But, spicy opinion time, I'm a little bored by the ending. And no, not by the interactions between Peter and Miles, but, you know, is it just me, or is Miles' journey of self-discovery kinda boring? So, like, the main theme of Spider-Man is...
You know, with great ability comes great accountability.
But, like, that's not the theme of what Miles' character was. Miles was the shy kid who was trying to break out of his shell, and that's his whole character arc throughout this movie. All of the Peters, and Gwen and Penny, had to struggle with being a hero despite the fact that they would have to make great sacrifices for it. All of the Uncle Bens died, Gwen's Peter died, and, you know, people died due to the actions of the Spider People and the risk of the job. But Miles actually didn't have this problem at all. And maybe that's great for most people, but I don't know, man. It seems kind of weird for a Spider-Man story to be about self-confidence and believing in your own innate abilities when the theme of Spider-Man was about doing what's right despite the fact that your own personal happiness will be at stake. For example, look at Peter B. Parker. This Peter had been on the job for over 20 years, and he loses his marriage and happiness for the sake of being Spider-Man. He thinks that being a parent and being Spider-Man are two mutually exclusive things, and thus he gives that up to continue his Spider-Man legacy. Sacrifice and responsibility are the themes here. Gwen as well. Gwen shields herself from the rest of the world after the pain of losing her Peter. She keeps everyone at arm's length and puts up a shield of sarcasm and humor, because she is not only protecting others from the danger of her job, but protecting what little emotional fortitude she has left. Again, this is about sacrifice and responsibility. Miles is a character completely out of left field. He's actually extremely sociable, he has a relatively healthy family life, and his moment of loss in the movie is his uncle, who turned out to be a supervillain. This isn't the responsibility of being Spider-Man that kills Aaron, it's Aaron's own doing that costs him his life. Miles' hands are completely clean here. Miles' big character flags are when he's given the goober by the original Peter to stop the Collider, which he does really without a fuss. He just doesn't know how to control his powers, and he's constantly trying to get Peter B to show him how, even though he has a slightly different, if not arguably better, set of powers. Miles really loses nothing here becoming Spider-Man. Aaron was still a villain, and he would have likely died and or been arrested or been outed. The second big character moment is when his dad talks to him about the spark he sees in him. Believe me when I say it's still a great scene for Miles, but it's also not the same. He feels like a different hero altogether. It just isn't quite Spider-Man to me. And arguably this is a good thing. We're all kind of tired of seeing the same thing over and over. In fact, the movie lampoons this with the, oh, let's look at this one last time. We're all kind of tired of it, and Miles is a breath of fresh air, but honestly, that still kind of hurts the movie for me a bit. To me, the emotional core of the movie was Peter and Miles' relationship. The strongest exchange in the movie is...
You gotta go home, man.
How do I know I'm not gonna mess it up again?
And that's it. And that's because it's the emotional climax between these two characters, the student and the teacher. At this point, once Miles lets go, the movie is pretty much over. I don't believe for a second that Miles can actually lose to Kingpin, because Kingpin is just a fat old man, and the only reason he killed Blonde Peter at all is because he was already weakened by the debris that fell on him. The fight between Miles and Kingpin is kinda lame because of this. Miles reached the peak of his confidence and let Peter go home. That was his whole character arc. Not only that, the fight really doesn't matter either, because Miles' win condition is to literally touch a button and keep Pudgy McSausage Fingers at a distance, which he can do because he's basically Electric Spider-Man. Now, Don't get me wrong, this doesn't detract from the rest of the movie, but it's still something that's been on my mind for a while. This is still like, shoot, top 10 movies for me? It's really good, and this is absolutely nitpicking. And with that, as promised, here's the alignment of the other Spider people. Now, since I haven't read the comics, I genuinely don't know if these are entirely accurate, but based on the evidence that I've been given in this movie, here you go. Peter Parker, or Spider-Noir, spends his time punching Nazis and being a gritty loner in a grim, dark society. He uses lethal weapons and apparently makes a lot of morally ambiguous decisions. Since I haven't read the comics, I'm just going to take his word for it and label him as a chaotic good anti-hero. Penni doesn't really give us a lot to go on. She has a psychic link between her spider and seems genuinely really peppy and happy and willing to do what's right regardless of what she needs to do. She also volunteers immediately to sacrifice herself to the Collider. Neutral good, I think. Peter Parker. I think he's just lawful good, mostly because he does everything else that the other spiders can, but he also works for the Daily Beagle, and we see him doing this in costume, leading me to believe that he operates out in the open? I don't know, maybe I'm really off base here. I know he's super important in the comics and the crossover events, but I got nothing, people. I'm gonna say lawful good. And with that, if you like this video, be sure to check out our other alignment videos, and I'll see you next time.